All right. I'm in an amazing area, one that definitely makes me come alive. I'm on the Ribbon Trail, and supposedly somehow I'm supposed to get down this rock face, and it's supposed to keeps going. But um, a lot of times we doubt God. We're not supposed to. It says don't doubt because we're like a wind-tossed ship on the ocean if we doubt, because what happens is when we start doubting, we go down rabbit holes, and it's like, oh, well, what if this happens, or if that happens? Oh, and we start making our own plans, and God's going, hey, dummy, I've got you. Just trust me. And we do things not doubt and not trusting Him. Um, and sometimes it's hard to hear God, and I mean, it's me in my own life. I know in order for me to hear God, I have to get in places like this with someone. This is my dog. That's Tobias, which means God is good, and God led me to that. But throughout my life, I mean, my life has not exactly been easy. Um, I grew up in a divorced home. I was raised by my mom and grandmother, pretty much. I didn't really have a male figure that showed the right way to do stuff. Um, in looking at my life, I didn't really have. I mean, at times I had someone that I kind of looked up to. um, like there were two. There was a woman by the name of Betsy, who definitely guided me, and she was my history teacher as well as. She also um, led us in Bible. I can't remember if it was Bible studies or choir or both. And then there was a guy that got me serious on godly views was Doug, who. So I mean, God uses our circumstances. He uses the people that He puts in our life, and I know that I have wrongfully said bad things about them, and I apologize for them. um, because everyone out there has a purpose, and God uses different people for different reasons. In the Bible, it says that God uses the rich people's money for the righteous. um, and so, but God gives us clues that He's always there. We're a lot of times we're not willing to listen, or we want things that He is not willing to provide for us. Like, oh, we want expensive houses or expensive cars, or we want the newest iPhone, or we want the newest gaming system, or whatever, or we want to be, if you're here, you want Aspen or whatever, so you can ski all day. Out here, a lot of the people thrive. Well, they used to thrive on the outdoors, and I've kind of seen. Feels like it's changed a lot, but there's still this like, oh, I want to get outside, and I mean, when you're in places like this, it's easy to get out. And I definitely, I mean, I thrive in places like this. Um, Florida was very difficult for me. Florida was it's not one of my favorite places. It's where I was born, and it's where, I mean, I've been provided resources and things that provided me ways. But things are put in your life to test you and to make sure that you're truly committed to God and not of this world. And Florida was one big flippin' test. Holy cow! Because I had in August of 2020, I had turned off everything. I mean, I turned off the TV, I turned off the gaming system, I turned off movies and music. Music, no, I still used that until I got all the way to Florida. Um, Otherwise, I would have. Yeah, but but that's when I really committed myself, and I really delved into the Word. And there was definitely a block at first. I mean, there was definitely like, okay, well, why should I read this Word? And then I got into it, and it started coming alive more and more and more. And a lot of pastors and preachers are saying, oh, well, just focus on the New Testament. It's like, no, you need to focus on the entirety of the Bible. You also need to keep an open mind and look at some of the other writings that people may or may not have published. I mean, there's like the Gospel of Thomas, and there's the Shepherd of Hermas, and there's Jasher and Jubilees and all these others. Um, And over the years, they supposedly got thrown out, but the original King James, I know this is a tangent, the original King James version of the Bible had 80 books, and it had Judith and Tobit and a lot of others. But it was cut down to try to, I don't know why. I just find it very interesting that they limited it to 66 books. But when I've had an open mind and I read some of these books and not, it's revealed a lot more of the stories behind like Joseph and like his whole experience in Egypt and how he ruled in Egypt. I mean, it shows more of Abraham's story and how his father had all these like wooden, I think it was wooden, bronze, and stone statues, and and it showed how how they would how they would do these like fancy meals and put them at the foot of these tall statues, and the thing never did anything. And if you look at the Old Testament, I mean, you'll see it's like you have like a group of individuals that are really serious, and people thrive off of that, and then those people die, and then another or two serious individuals come along that really know God's word and are really from God, and then they die, and so then the people go back. I mean, it's this on and off, on and off, on and off thing, because people haven't, I mean, I believe we are naturally sinful by nature. I mean, we are in a majorly sinful area, and it's very easy for us to be in a world where, I mean, this world down there, I mean, that's the world that everyone lives in. That's Grand Junction. So this whole stretch is actually Grand Junction. But we're told by the world that, oh, well, we should have luxury, and oh, you should have jewelry, and oh, you should have the latest fashions, and I mean, and they give us these supposed models of celebrities and other people, and it's like, okay, these people, if you really delved into it, these people have been bought off. A lot of the music industry have signed record deals with Satan himself, and their stuff is not their own, and they are heavily involved in satanic rituals, and I find it very interesting. And a lot of people claim that that Christmas is Christian, but I've always wondered for like many years before I even looked at the research behind it. But I've always wondered, it's like, okay, this is consumeristic, and like for like 20, 25 years, I mean, it's like, okay, Christians don't really look any different than anyone else. I mean, if you talk to a Christian and go to a Christian church, they don't act or do anything else than a modern world does. And then when I got serious, oh man, it's like, okay, yeah, now I understand. Like when you're really following God's word and what he says, you cut that world out. You don't listen and do what they do. You work your tail off, because it says that you're working for the Lord. It says that you are humble. It says to not backbite, not joke. It says that we are supposed to be humble. It says that we're not supposed to be prideful and egotistical and all this other stuff. But the world says, oh, well, you need to be your own person, and you need to be free to do whatever you want. It's like, okay, well, where does it stop? I mean, if we all did what we felt like, I mean, there would be so much rape and incest and murders, and I mean, that's pretty much what's going to happen when the hand of God comes off in the very, very near future. And I've already hinted at that. I've had many dreams and visions that there's going to be some majorly bad things. But this world has lied to you big time. And God always provides for people. I mean, I was lost big time. I went to college, and I went off the deep end, and I went to clubs and dancing and drinking, and I would get on my computer and do things that I shouldn't. I would view sites that I shouldn't, and I was so heavily involved in it. And then I don't know what switched, but I did go to like Campus Crusade and go to these other places, But God was always there. I mean, He always provided food and resources and stuff that I needed, even though I would freak out. It's like, oh, well, I only have this amount of money, and according to my bills and my math, it's like it's not going to add up. And even when I tithe, I've almost always tithed 10% of my money. So whatever came in the door, be it food, resources, anything, it's always been at least 10% or some way of getting that back out. So even though I wasn't living right, I was attempting to be right. I always went to church throughout my life, and I'd have these on again, off again things where I'd study the Bible really seriously, and then I'd get off of it, and it's like, and it just never came alive for me until recently, and didn't start making sense until I realized that this world that we live in is all controlled by God. I mean, all these clouds, oh, well, I don't know, yeah, there's a couple of clouds, but the clouds and wind and everything are controlled by God. The earth we live on is not a spinning ball, it is a flat plane. And actually, I mean, if this were, see, there's a peak over there in the distance, that is 50 to 100 miles away, I think. Maybe 20. I would say 30 to 40 miles. But if there was an actual curvature, all that would be below the curve. If you look up the curve of the earth for every X number of whatever, there's supposed to be a curve. But notice how flat this is. I mean, I'm up here, and you can see how flat. The only reason why it looks like maybe anything is because of these mountains. These mountains give it a little bit more definition and stuff. But if you look at that does that look flat to you, or does that look round to you? I mean, that's and that's the bad thing about living in the East or living on the plains, is you don't get to have this bird's eye view. Whereas I can look at this and go, oh, well, that makes sense. And all this stuff, if you think about the flood too, I mean, all these edges were on the edge of a lake. And what I find interesting is there are geological panels over there on the Fruita property that talk about a big mega lake, but they're not willing to admit that there was a global flood. Like in Utah and Idaho, that there was this big old lake, and when the dam released, and this is geologic activity, what it did is all that water, massive amounts of water, just scoured out the Snake River Valley. And the Snake River Valley is, I can't remember how deep it is. It's like 800 to 1,000 feet. So that's not comparison wise. But like these big mountains would be like, that's a couple hundred feet. But they saw that a lot of water can do a lot of damage very quickly. If you look at Mount St. Helens and what it did and the canyons that it formed very quickly. And a lot of the time, the geology professors are basing their assumptions on the models of now. What they do is they take something and watch it over a short period of time, and they extrapolate it over a whole lot longer. When we have no idea the makeup or composition, there were not the tools or scientific method that are now back then. So even if you went 6,000 years in the past, that time period could be completely different than it is now. And biblically speaking, we know it's different. If you look at Amorites and Canaanites, you know that they were giants. And we have breath in our lungs. So if there were giants on the land, there were probably giant trees and everything else. And if you look at Question Everything and Question Antiquity on Facebook, you'll see that that there are pictures where there's a little person and there's a great big giant right next to him. So they're trying to hide this, because what the devil has done, and it's, in my opinion, brilliant. Well, I'm giving him too much credit. The devil is extremely evil, but what he's done is he's gotten rid of and made all these scientific theories that everyone's claiming as fact. And any professor and a science professor can tell you, but any law is just a theory that has never been disproved yet. However, they're discounting God. God can disprove any theory that we have in an instant. It's just that we take people at their word, and And when we don't have an open mind and keep things in perspective, we take in these BS things. But notice how these lines on here, how flat they are and how everything else is. But if you look at everything else, how it's so chaotic and everything's intermixing and how the different layers. So if these layers happen, supposedly each layer happened over like 1,000,000 years. So every layer is like another 1,000,000 years. So you're telling me that 1,000,000 years and everything remained flat? BS. There is, if you look at it, there's no intermixing of the different points and no whatever. And I've gotten majorly off my topic. This was meant to be a quick, easy topic, but it's kind of gone off the rails. But God provides us. He knows what He's made us for. He knows what we like. Like if you like fishing, He'll provide you opportunities that are fun and you can go fishing. If you like to go boating, He'll provide you opportunities to go boating. You don't need a big fancy boat to go do what you want. If you like pets, He'll provide you with a dog or someone else. This guy I rescued from Mesa Animal Control, and I had to get like minor surgeries, but to neuter him. But I mean, it was like $100 or $200 because I had to get food and all that too. But he had to get his shots and all that and make sure he was good to go. But dogs don't have to be expensive. You don't have to get these designer dogs like everyone's getting, and and yeah. So, but yeah, if you go out and buy these expensive, extravagant cars and try to live this fancy lifestyle and having all these fancy things, you're going to find out your money is going to go by very quickly. But if you live within your means and buy stuff that is practical and economical, like if you buy, like my car, I mean, yes, I bought a car that is very economical. I mean, it got me from A to B. It's 4-wheel drive, and it gets me to where I need to go. But yes. But also, I mean, God provides this stuff, and he gives us he tries to push us in the right direction, but sometimes we're stubborn. Like He's told me in my past to, hey, why don't you go backpacking or do this or that or the other, and I stubbornly dug in my heels and go, well, I'm not doing that. And God's going, you dummy, I had some amazing things to show you, some amazing fun times that you could have had, and I never listened to Him. So the reason why your life is not as enjoyable as what you think or it should be, it's because you have decided not to do that. So, but anyway, but thank you for joining me. But yeah, just keep your eyes open and get back to the Bible, get back to God, and get in places like in your closet or wherever you need to, and just listen for God. Get rid of all the distractions of the world and get away from modern life. But thank you for joining me, and I'm going to try to see if I'm going to keep going or not. Have a good day.